Welcome to Listen to Me, a multi-voiced exploration of the city with 21 guests sharing their personal experiences of Milan's contemporary art, architecture, design, music, fashion and literature. We explore each theme in 4 episodes. This is the 3rd episode of our itinerary dedicated to design. Here, we are in a magnificent building, a treasure chest of the arts in the heart of Milan. This is the Poldi Pezzoli Museum, named after its founder, Gian Giacomo Poldi Pezzoli, a discerning art collector. Gian Giacomo began collecting porcelain, clocks, tapestries, inlaid furniture and antique armour at a very young age, following the example of his mother, Rosina, a patron of the sculptor Lorenzo Bartolini. Let's hear from Anty Pansera, a design expert.
Poldi Pezzoli was already thinking of a house and residence created with the intention of becoming a museum gallery. He died young, and already in his will he had stipulated that this space of his, this property, should be open to the city, to the community. The building has its own special features, although of course inside we see a whole series of rooms deliberately inspired by different styles of the past that Gian Giacomo loved so much. So we have, for example, the staircase and bedroom in Baroque style, the anteroom in French rocaille style, the early Renaissance black room and his little study, which was inspired by the Middle Ages and Dante. There's an eclecticism and a revival of styles and artistic techniques that were obviously avant-garde trends at the time. The rooms become precious showcases for a whole series of objects that Gian Giacomo purchased: sculptures, paintings, applied art objects and more.
Quadri, oggetti di arte applicata, eccetera.
The Poldi Pezzoli changes its appearance during the design week. The large rooms full of period paintings and works of art collide and combine with contemporary design objects. It's a crossover operation that combines the past with the present, antiquity and modernity, all with the same common denominator, the beauty of art in all its forms. Let's hear from Luca Nichetto, art director of the Parisian brand La Manufacture, who was faced with the arduous task of organising a contemporary design exhibition for the Design Week 2022 in the elegant spaces of the Poldi Pezzoli Museum. Nichetto's idea was immediately clear. Everything on display, from sofas to objects to coat racks, had to be the same colour, orange, the colour he thought best for creating an interplay between the museum's period works and the contemporary design objects.
The main idea, apart from the color, was to try to visually connect 2 worlds, which are separate in people's imaginations, while still maintaining a through line determined by the product. And so, in this case, making it all one color. Otherwise, the risk, in my opinion, seeing the other products that were in the museum before our installation, is that the museum is so opulent and distinctive chromatically and visually that if we'd used normal finishes, the product would have been swallowed up.
According to Luca Nichetto, the Poldi Pezzoli is an ideal place for Italian design, which is rooted in the Renaissance.
I think that Italian design was born not so much in the post-war period, but during the Renaissance. And so I think we're all, whether we like it or not, tied to that historical period for a whole series of reasons. Whether it's the beauty that becomes a bit for everyone, or the craftsmen who emerge from the workshops of various artists, the fact that these craftsmen then developed a whole series of talents, which later become culture and craftsmanship, if you like, and are then handed down up to the Industrial Revolution and afterwards.
This is also confirmed by designer Alessandra Baldereschi, who found inspiration for one of her creations in the rooms of Museo Poldi Pezzoli.
Poldi Pezzoli, io...
I'm grateful to the Poldi Pezzoli Museum because on one of my last visits, a few years ago, it inspired a project I did for Nodos, where I reproduced a couple of Tiepolo paintings on wool. Basically, they were reproduced, sewn, and hand-spun. I enlarged some of Tiepolo's sketches, and in particular this one in the museum inspired me to do this project. It's the allegory of virtue and nobility, a little sketch which he actually repeated many times, always with these mythological subjects in the clouds, together with cherubs. I reproduced them giant size on wool in this carpet collection. So the visit to Poldi Pezzoli was really useful for me. Then this collection of porcelain and ceramics from Mess, from Capodimonte, not only objects for everyday use like plates and crockery, but also figurines. The classic dust-collecting figurines that I actually really love. So I could spend whole days there sketching and drawing those porcelains.
Disegnando quelle porcellane.
Little details can spark creativity.
E uno sguardo sui dettagli.
I have an eye for detail. I analyse every object, and I always carry a notebook. I always have a notebook in my bag, with a pencil to make little sketches, because an idea might come to me and I want to jot it down immediately when I see an object, so I don't lose it. I spend a lot of time doing it. Usually whoever's with me gets bored because I lag behind, so it's better for me to go on my own.
Meglio andare da soli.
There's a whole world around the Poldi Pezzoli to discover, from Via Manzoni to Piazza San Babila, a stroll through art, fashion and design that mix and cross-reference each other. Let's hear from Chiara Alessi, design historian, about how her showroom was born in this area.
Quando Milano effettivamente negli anni '80.
When Milan really became the capital of design in the 80s, it opened its showrooms because companies also needed a physical place to sell their products. Today, we're used to visiting so-called concept stores. I don't think anyone really thinks about only buying a light in a lighting shop or a sofa in a sofa shop anymore. But at one point, for a long time, that's exactly how it was. Even in the heart of Milan, there were very specialised streets, almost like a project of 19th century crafts, when cities had streets for shoemakers and streets for junk dealers. And at a certain point in Milan, there was, for example, a street with all the lighting shops. Floss, Artemide, Fontana Arte, all their showrooms lined up side by side. Companies realised that they needed a space in the city centre where people could see what they were producing as they walked around. There wasn't this idea of bringing people directly into factories yet. That came later. Showrooms brought the factory to the city. So much so that for a long time these showrooms became places not just for meetings or offices, but for direct contact with the customer.
Ma proprio per il contatto diretto con il cliente.
A store as a place to experiment and test things out on customers. This is a very modern concept, which echoes today's human-centered design, and which Italian companies have already been practicing for many years, as Chiara Alessi tells us.
Addirittura, per esempio, proprio floss.
For example, floss technicians even used to tell me that lamp colours or certain functions were tested directly with prototypes in the store, calling customers in to try and gauge their reactions. And Alessi itself, when it had the Via Matteotti store by Sozzas, and then later the new one in Via Manzoni, always tried things out on the public. The store became where they did their marketing, basically experimenting by testing things out on their customers. The store offered the opportunity to showcase new products new collections, and also to give people the chance to buy products, which doesn't happen at trade fairs. For a long time, the trade fair was a place pretty much dedicated to industry insiders. And showrooms are for exhibitions too. An opportunity for little events or even moments of celebration, open to the public. And some of that has been preserved over time in that kind of quadrilateral that runs from San Babila to Via Manzoni, Via Monte Napoleone and Via Senato.
Monte Napoleone, Via Senato.
To visit the Poldi Pezzoli Museum, get off at the stop Monte Napoleone on the yellow metro line M3.
That's all for this episode, but don't take off your headphones just yet. In the next episode, we'll take you to the Triennale and the Adi Design Museum. To listen to the next episodes, follow us on your favorite podcast platforms or visit www.casemuseo.it, where you can also buy the Casa Museo card to visit the Poldi Pezzoli Museum, the Bagatti Valsecchi Museum, and Villa Necchi Campiglio at a discount price. The Boschi di Stefano House Museum is free to visit.